One thing I can use is differences in solubility. And that technique is what we call salting out. I'm going to make use of the fact that in certain salts, certain ionic conditions, I can make proteins more or less soluble. So the idea here is that as I increase the ionic strength of my solution, I can decrease the solubility. But in order for this to work, I have to have a salt that's very soluble. And there's a very special salt that biologists use, biochemists use, and that's the salt ammonium sulfate, NH42SO4, ammonium sulfate. It's a special salt because it's really, really soluble. That means I can get the concentration of it way high up. And it's pretty gentle on proteins. You can use sodium chloride, which is what molecular biologists who think they're biochemists use, but it's a much harsher salt. If you know about the Hofmeister series, you'll recognize why. Let's consider, as an example, two proteins in serum. How do I get serum? Easy. Just to remind you, I take blood, I don't let it clot, I spin it, I get cells down here, and I get what's called plasma here. That's what I'm interested in, not serum. Apologies. Plasma. If I let it clot, I have serum. Plasma is the unclotted part of your blood. Okay? Now, there are two proteins that are sitting around in plasma, and I want to purify them. Okay? One of those proteins is called fibrinogen. We'll talk about this in a future lecture. This is a protein that's involved in clotting. And the other thing I'm interested in is albumin. This is a protein that does a lot of things in your blood. Now, the interesting thing is that fibrinogen will precipitate out at 0.8 molar ammonium sulfate. Albumin will only precipitate at greater than or equal to 2.4 molar ammonium sulfate. So now I have a slick trick. All I have to do now, right, so in order to do this, all I have to do is take plasma and add to it ammonium sulfate so that its final concentration is anything greater than 0.8 molar. Let's go with 2 molar. For example, I could have used 1 molar. I chose to use 2. What happens at 2 molar? The fibrinogen precipitates. The albumin does not. Okay? And so then I can centrifuge. And I'm going to end up then with a pellet that's rich in fibrinogen. And I'm going to end up with a supernatant that still has albumin in it. It may have other things, but it still has albumin in it. Thank you, ladies. Okay? Then what do? Then I take the supernatant and I add more ammonium sulfate. Let's pick a number. I don't know, 2.8 molar. Could I have made this 3 molar? Yes. Could I have made it 4 molar? Yes. Could I have made it 2.6 molar? Yes. Anything greater than 2.4. Okay? And when I do this now, if I centrifuge, I will end up with a pellet that hopefully is primarily fibrinogen. Sorry, albumin, right? And now I'll end up with a supernatant that has some other stuff in it. Why didn't I just make the concentration 2.8 molar at the beginning? What would have ended up if I'd gone from 0 to 2.8 molar? What would have been in this pellet? Both, of course. So I can differentially, by stepping up the ammonium sulfate concentration, I can preferentially now separate one protein from another from another.